How do? Time for Spider and Olde Scooter again. This is the September 28th edition, but the real edition name is It's in Your Genes. I started to have pictures of some really good fannies in tight jeans, but I guess that's sexist. I think nice fannies and tight jeans are a blessing to the world and we should enjoy them, but I know that's sexist or politically incorrect or inappropriate for an 80-year-old guy to say, or something like something's wrong with it. But anyway, it's in your genes, and obviously I'm talking about these genes, and this is a cloud that looks like genes, which sort of says to me that gene double spiral things are a frequently occurring natural pattern, which I think is thrilling. And maybe I'll expound on that, but mainly I'm going to play some Spider Solitaire. Maybe I'll skip some deals, not to drag it out for you in case you're not a hardcore Spider Solitaire fan. I am, of course. I've contemplated this, that Spider Solitaire is in many ways, like lots of games are, kind of a small model of life, like a erector set. Remember those? A little erector set version of life. And if you play it in a philosophical frame of mind, you can see that. You hear the joys of having someone else clean up your kitchen in the background. I hope you are so blessed, although if that's the case, be sure you return the favor frequently and fervently. All right, who said I wasn't a feminist? Jack. Well, see, I got a hole. I love holes. Kind of the wild card of the game. Let me see if I can see an example here of like life. There, I made a small gamble. I put a red card on a black card, thus blocking that 9. I can't play that till I move these. To see if it uncovered something interesting. It didn't, actually. So, this is the nice thing. Few lives have this capacity, and that is you can undo something you did. And in this game, it doesn't cost you anything. Sweet Spider Mac, the AI, just forgives you. There's one take back that I don't forgive myself, which maybe you've heard of. Ooh, see, here's a move. Also with old folks who try to talk while they're playing, sometimes it doesn't get the most competence showing. So look right at an obvious move for a while and just not see it. I call it man in front of refrigerator syndrome, which I'm sure you've heard, either from me or 5,000 or 6,000 other people. Or if you're a man, you've heard it from your wife. It won't deal as long as you have a hole open. So see, I was talking my way. 1 move, 2 moves, 3 moves, 4 moves. This is keeper. 5 moves. Now, that little gamble paid off, and I got some moves out of it. So, I'm happy with that. I met with the group of men I meet with monthly, call ourselves the Mansa men. Mansa means something in some primitive African language, I think. Maybe not primitive, but it's sort of a primitive meaning about, leadership and character or some dang thing. I'm sure inappropriate for our group, if it's that good. Oh, I didn't see that. And in the process, we were talking about wars, and I could hear there's several men in the group who are actual old-timer retired warriors. One guy flew F-105s in Vietnam. If you know anything about an airplane, just flying it around is an act of bravery. A tremendous weapon, and he flew it actually in Laos, I think, maybe before we knew about it. But war is genetic, in my opinion. I think the urge to war, the willingness to go to war, the sort of seeing it as something normal and natural, war, let's go to war, is in our genome. Said genome. Because of the phenomenon of sort of group evolution, societal evolution. look here. Let's see what's under there. Ah, 1 move, 2 moves, 3 moves, 4 moves, and a hole. So that's a natural keeper. When I say keeper, if I take some gamble and I don't get enough results out of it, I take it back. But if I don't take it back, I keep it. That makes it a keeper. You might wonder about the funny hat I have on tonight. Well, today is the first chilly day we've had. It's been this cool several times before, but this is a chilly day at the end of numerous days with clouds. A rare state of affairs for New Mexico, but we've had it. Gotten an 1.5 inches of rain. It's fantastic. But also we get no solar gain in what is basically a passive solar house we have here, so it cools down. And I decided to graduate from my thin, skimpy bandana head things to this a more substantial hat. I'm sure you were just dying to know why I was wearing the funny hat tonight. Excuse me. So I'll do that rather than this, because then I can do this, right? It would have been the same no matter which way I did it, but it just feels better that way, and you got to go with your good feels. Okay, well, I'm doing really good here, with now only going into my second deal, and my gosh, I had made 30 actual moves. That's fairly rare. It usually bodes well, but not always. Depends on whether you get in the groove, whether you feel the sequence. It's like the Force. May the sequence be with you. Because you can play the same exact hand twice and have totally different results because you played the wrong sequence in one of them. Well, I'm going to do this, even though that's kind of an expensive move. And so I can do this, so I can do this. And what did I get? Oh, a chance to do that, and this, and this. So that may not have been a bad move either. You got enough moves. I sort of count the moves. If I get 4, 5, 6 moves out of a gamble, good gamble, keep it. If I only get 3 or 4, I'm conflicted. Do I keep it? Do I not? And the way we evolved into being natural warfighters was from the time we formed in groups. You had your tribe or your troop or your village, or way before that, back probably before we were Homo sapien, when we were Homo erectus or something, or even before that. We lived in clusters, family clusters, extended family clusters. But anyway, those who had, for some reason or another, the sense that it was good business to raid and attack your neighbor and go after the spoils of war, steal their women, steal their cows, so forth, knock them off as potential competitors for the grazing land or the hunting land or the hunter-gatherer land, all that. And people noticed that it was happening, and people started doing it, and those who were best at it and who did it with more vigor outsurvived those who didn't. Those who were more passive and tended to get raided instead of being the raider. That characteristic, or a lot of it, a sort of peaceful, passive person, non-aggressive, non-acquisitive, they didn't survive in quite the same numbers. So it gradually moved the whole human genome toward warriors. So that's why there's Yemen, for instance. My God, what an awful war. Syria, the forever war. Going after ISIS, and all the other, something that you Google how many wars are going on right now. I don't know how low they go to count a war. A family feud maybe would be the bottom end of that scale, but there are a lot of wars at any given moment on Earth going on. Fighting, shooting, dying, suffering, being wounded, all that terrible stuff. Vast sums of money being burned, basically. So we're warriors, and I think it's genetic. It's sure not logical. We surely would be more productive and have fewer dead people and less suffering and more money if we somehow settle these disputes without shooting them up. And of course, wars now become just impossible. You know, as we develop newer, meaner weapons, the results are meaner and meaner. That's not logical. Dr. Spock, not Dr. Spock. That's the baby guy. Mr. Spock. So I'm just blasting around here. I think I'll let you rest a minute. I'll be right back. Now, I am right back. I played a couple of deals, so we'd have time to finish this thing. I'm down to the last card. The real-life comparison occurred to me because you saw I had that very productive first deal, my 30-something moves, and nothing has happened since. And I've had that, you have this exciting time in your life where you're having victories and getting a claim, and then all of a sudden it goes a long period where nothing much happens. So I had a little tiny model of that. I had a period of maybe, I don't remember, 2 or 3 years where it didn't seem like much went right. Nothing went wrong, just I wasn't having any fun. So this one wasn't nearly that bad. Sure didn't last that 2 years, my gosh. I don't think I was depressed, you know. It just, things didn't fall into place. There's a lot of luck in life. It can be said maybe life is entirely luck. But people will argue with you when you go to extremes like that. Genetics, yes. Oh, I want to just show you this one thing before I forget again. This is from some kind of, come on, see the whole thing? This spiral turbulence in the air. Could be after a big jet. I don't know where that came from. I didn't even read it. I saw the picture, knew I was doing genetics, and grabbed it because it's so cool. But there are a lot of spiral or twin helixes in nature. You probably knew that too. No. Damn it. It's all order. See, that was sequence. Okay. We'll finish this game off and I'll wave my hands and say I think epigenetics is this huge, giant, immense news story that is sort of suppressed because I think a lot of the scientists involved may be slightly embarrassed because it was canon, I think. I love that. It sounds so churchly. That genes were what passed things on, and they pretty much were unaffected by what happened in life. You could say, well, I led this terribly healthy life. I passed along my healthy genes. They would say not so much. Mainly you just pass along what you got in the pass down. Maybe some mutations occur along the line and they change a little, but basically your experiences in life don't have. And it was like people who thought, well, that's not so. There are lasting impacts from certain lifestyles. Look at this. No plays. I mean, well, maybe a play. We'll see. Not many, anyway. But they started discovering 'twas so. Maybe, I'm not sure exactly how long ago, 15, 20 years, and then it sort of became mainstream, and it's got a name, epigenetics, and they found out that, in fact, there's stuff that occurs in lives that impress the not the genome so much itself, but the part of the genetic structure that decides which gene is going to be how active on what. And those things are pass-alongable. So, and I don't think you've heard the news much because it embarrasses all the science. They just haven't faced up to the fact that they had to change a basic idea. Well, thank you so much. It's been fun playing with you. Pardon the expression. And take care of your genes. Pass along good ones. Have great experiences. Live a fulfilled life. Think, pray for the people in Puerto Rico and American Virgin Islands and Houston and all the storms, Florida, everybody. Bless you all. Good night.